Hi, family. Welcome back. We're starting a new season 4 here of the Gold Corner. For those that don't know me, my name is Joel Ojeda, also known as the Bearded Ref, and I created this nonprofit organization as well as a YouTube channel, the Gold Corner. And I created it in honor of my daughter Mia, who passed away in 2018 from neuroblastoma. And this channel was created as a platform where we can speak about these kids that are currently fighting, the ones that have fought and have already passed and gone home, and just to talk about them as they are, which are warriors, which are real life superheroes. That's how we all like to see them as that. And we also talk about a lot of nonprofit organizations, amazing organizations that are doing things for childhood cancer. Thank you once again for being here. This is the Gold Corner. Let's do this.
And now it's time for the main event. This is the moment you have all been waiting for. In memory of Mia Ojeda. Dedicated to all the brave little warriors that have fought and the ones that are currently fighting childhood cancer. For the thousands watching around the world, fighting out of the Gold Corner, it's time!
So this week we have an amazing guest. I had an opportunity to meet our next guest. We met through a mutual friend called Ty Walker from Bridges of Gold, a fantastic lady who does a lot also for the childhood cancer community. And that is where me and Ali met up. And we've been talking back and forth, and I can't wait for you guys to hear her story. She's from North Kingstown, Rhode Island, and she has an amazing nonprofit organization who has been doing amazing things. They were just featured in the Ellen show not too long ago, and she's going to go into it a little bit more in detail. But Ali, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the Gold Corner. We can't wait to hear your story about your foundation and the drive and the passion behind it. So Ali, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share Ella's story with everyone. So my story with myself being a childhood cancer advocate starts a while back when I was 12 years old, actually. I was on Instagram and I saw a girl named Talia Joy, who many people probably know because she was a beauty influencer and she also had cancer. And later down the road, I actually ended up meeting her sister, and now we're very good friends. And she actually flew down to do a private glam wars for my friend Ella. So that kind of came full circle. But when I was 12 years old, shortly after I found out about Talia, a classmate of my sister's was diagnosed with leukemia. And that was really the first kid that I had heard of being diagnosed with cancer that I knew. Like, I had seen Talia, but that wasn't someone that I knew. That wasn't someone in my community. And you never think it can happen to you and your community until it does. So when she was diagnosed, I asked my mom to teach me how to sew. And I sewed a hair bow. It was orange polka dots and it had the leukemia ribbon on it. And I sold it at my middle school and then her middle school. And I ended up raising $1,300 for her family at the time. And this is when my passion sparked for pediatric cancer. So she nominated me a few years later after doing a bunch of other work for pediatric cancer and different charities. She nominated me to run for Student of the Year for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And what that is, it's a 6-week campaign, and it's a competition among high school students in every state to fundraise the most in these 6 weeks for blood cancer research and patient care. So I was very, very intimidated by this because they were like, okay, so the minimum that people usually fundraise is $10,000, and $10,000 to a 17-year-old is a lot. So I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to try. And as fate literally had it, that's the only way I can describe it. I started planning a fashion show called Runway for a Cure. And part of the fashion show was that we had a segment where adult and child cancer survivors and fighters were walking as the models. And I walked into a local store one day, and there was this beautiful little bald girl in the store. And I went up to her. I knew who she was. We had gone to elementary school together, and her name was Ella. And I said, "Do you remember me? I'm Ali. I was a lot older than you. I was 5 years older than her." And I asked if she wanted to be a part of my fashion show. She kind of gave me these like bug eyes, like, "I don't remember you," but her parents did. And she was like, "Yeah, I'll think about it." Like, she was only 11. So she did end up being in the fashion show. And this kind of formed our inseparable bond that we had. She started coming to all of my events for Student of the Year. And then when I won, after raising $43,000 in 6 weeks, she was sitting next to me at the table. And I remember I said, "Ella, if I win, I'm going to call you up to come up with me." And she was like, "No, you're not." She did not like to be the center of attention. And I did call her up. And that is like a memory that I will hold dearly forever. It was so special. And I kind of think of that as like the beginning of our kind of journey as big sister and little sister. That's what we called each other. Ella didn't have any siblings, and I have a little sister, so I absolutely love being a big sister, and she fit into that role perfectly, and she got along with me and my sister so well. So after this, I started going to some outpatient chemotherapy clinic and physical therapy treatments with Ella. I would skip school on Tuesdays and go with her. Don't regret it whatsoever. It was so much fun to spend that time with her. And I started to think that I understood kind of what it was like to be in the world of childhood cancer at this point, now that I was going to clinic with her. And so at this point, after 2.5 years, she completed her chemo, and that was an incredible day as well. And we were just so excited for her to finally have this normal life. She was 13 at the time. And so she had about 10 months in remission, and she was thriving, beautiful, about to go into high school. And then when I was a freshman, so I was a freshman in college at this time, I'll literally never forget this day. It was just the weirdest thing, because in March, I went to DC for the first time to lobby for pediatric cancer, March of 2019. And the day that Ella was getting, I believe she was getting scans. I don't remember why, or I don't remember if it was just routine or if something was happening, but I literally had a panic attack for absolutely no reason in the middle of this conference. And then I just kind of went about my life for the next month and didn't really think about it again. And then in April, I was standing in my therapist's office, and my mom called me, and she was like, "Are you at therapy right now?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she didn't realize that I wasn't in my therapist's office. I was just standing in the middle of the doctor's office. And she was like, she's like, "Just sit down. I need to tell you something. Like, Ella's mom didn't want to tell you because she didn't know how you were going to react. But Ella relapsed, and she's in the hospital." And I literally don't remember anything from that moment until I was in my therapist's office. I don't remember if someone carried me in there. I remember this random mom hugging me. I was just like screaming. And my therapist said, "Are you upset because you think Ella is going to pass away?" And I said, I honestly hadn't even crossed my mind. That didn't cross my mind. I was upset because I didn't want her to have to go through that again. And I was, at the time, I was just like, I guess I didn't know as much about cancer as I thought I knew. And I was like, well, leukemia has an 80 to 90% survival rate, so I'm not worried about that whatsoever. So I went up to the hospital that night and I visited her. And then after that, I pretty much would try to go 3 or 4 days a week. I was working and I was also a freshman in college, and the hospital is about 45 minutes away from my school. So I would try to go as many days as I could to visit her, and probably sit there for 7 hours, which is probably a lot longer than she wanted me to be there. Sometimes we would just sit in silence for like the whole time. But I just like loved spending every moment with her that I could. And so then in the summer, I went away for an internship. I moved to Baltimore for a month, and my friend Kerrigan, who is now on the board for Glimmer of Hope, she is battling osteosarcoma. She had been newly diagnosed, and she was actually put in the hospital room next to Ella. And one day she texted me and she said, Ella's not in her room. Where is she? And I was like, I had just talked to her mom the night before. I was like, oh, she's like doing fine. They're getting ready for like the bone marrow transplant. They're trying to figure out all the logistics of that. And I feel stupid when I tell this story, because I feel like I think I was just in shock. And my first thought was, oh, well, she's probably just like, I think I literally said to Kerrigan, I was like, oh, she's just at the doctor's. And that, like, they're just looking at her at the doctor's right now. And Kerrigan's like, Ali, this is the hospital. Like, the doctor comes to her room. And I was like, okay, I don't know. So I texted her mom, and she said that Ella had gone into septic shock, and they brought her down to the ICU, but she was doing well. And the next 2 weeks were kind of a whirlwind of hoping every single day that she would get better. And I actually went to the hospital. I believe it was August 22nd. It was the day that I got back from Baltimore. And I didn't even go in and see her because they told me that she just didn't look like herself. And I just still had that notion that this can't happen to Ella. Like, she has cancer, but this can't happen to her. And I remember waking up on August 25th, and that was, I think it was like day 30 or something. And that was like the day that they said if she was going to get better, she would get better, like this day. And I found out that she had passed away the night before at 11 o'clock. And that was literally the worst day of my life. And I even feel selfish saying that, because I know that what I feel is like nothing compared to her family and her parents. But I've never lost really anyone besides elderly family members. And it's so different when it's a kid. And she was only 14. And I just was in complete shock I think I was literally in shock because I went back to school the next week. This was in the summer. And I was like, eventually one of my professors was like, you need to take a week out of school. Like, you can't even function in class. And I was just like, I didn't know what to do. Like, you don't know how to navigate that because you never think it's going to happen to you. And it took a lot out of me. I like isolated myself from most of my friends and family for almost a year. And then right about when I started to try to branch out again, a pandemic started. So that was not exactly ideal for anyone, but I had seen this notice from another nonprofit organization. They needed masks, handmade masks for pediatric cancer patients. And I thought at first, I don't want to say I thought right away I was going to jump into this, because I usually jump into everything. And at first I was like, I'm not getting sucked into this. Like, I'll make a few masks, but I'll just do my best. Like, so I broke out the sewing machine for the second time since I was like 12, and actually had to like buy a new sewing machine because I was using my mom's from when she was like 12. And I started sewing these masks, and I ended up sewing 100 masks in 2 days and donating them to this foundation to give to pediatric cancer patients. And then people started asking if they could buy them. I was like, why not? I have nothing better to do. I'm sitting in my house the entire day, all day in quarantine. So I started sewing all day, every single day for 3 months, from like when I woke up to when I went to bed, to the point where we had to move my sewing table into my living room so that I could watch TV while I was sewing, because I was getting so bored. And I ended up sewing close to 3,000 masks, and raising over $10,000 for a few different charities. There was Children's Miracle Network, where it got its name, Miracle Masks, and Talia's Legacy for Talia Joy. We donated some money to, and there was a lot of different charities, but Ella's mom told me the story that I didn't know existed, in the midst of me making all these masks, about how when Ella first lost her hair when she was 11, she wrote a letter to American Girl asking them to create a bald doll. And she didn't know that there was a bald doll. We're not even 100% sure if there was a bald doll, but they said there was, and she didn't know because it wasn't sold in stores and it wasn't in the catalog. And her best friend's parents were pretty instrumental in getting that to happen. They made a ton of phone calls to get Ella this doll, but Ella, in her typical Ella fashion of the attention not being on her dream was that every girl was going to get one of these dolls so that they could feel beautiful and courageous in their hair loss. And so she got her doll, and she named her doll Hope. And I was so moved by this story. So what I started to do with the money from Miracle Masks was reach out to different nonprofits and get kids to give these dolls to. And so we started with probably like 8 or 9 dolls through Miracle Masks. And it got to a point where Miracle Mask was making so much money that I was like, well, I might as well just start my own nonprofit at this point, because I love doing this. I love the mission, but at the time I was like, masks aren't going to last forever. And now look at us. But I didn't think that was a really feasible nonprofit to do at the time. And it wasn't, because I was sewing them 100% by myself. But I started Glimmer of Hope Foundation in June, but technically we became a nonprofit on July 9th, 2020. And this was our mission, to send dolls to children battling cancer. So we started out with a few bald dolls, and we were doing care packages as well at the time. And in the first about 6 months, we had sent 100 dolls. And between the dolls and all the stuff that goes with the dolls, like clothes and the cards and everything that goes with them, the dolls are about $150 each. So it's a lot more money than you think to send 100 dolls. And then we've kind of molded our mission over time. So the kickoff event that we had in August of 2020, which was about a year since Ella had passed, we did a photo shoot at Golden Hour at the beach. So I live in Rhode Island, so we're the ocean state. So we did it at the beach. She loved the beach. Golden Hour, gold for childhood cancer. And then everyone wore gold and white. It was, I believe it was 14 childhood cancer survivors and fighters, ranging in age from 4 to 19 were there, and everyone had flower crowns because I used to make Ella artificial flower crowns to wear in the summer when she was losing her hair, because everyone had hats to wear in the winter, but no one had anything to wear in the summer. And she would model all the flower crowns for me. So we have a ton of pictures of her and I in the flower crowns. But these ones were real. So everyone had a real flower crown. So how we kind of molded our mission with this was I absolutely loved the in-person. I loved the photo shoots and I loved that in-person connection. And obviously I can't have that with every kid we've sent a doll to. We just hit 300 dolls this week, and they've gone pretty much to every single state now. I think we're in almost 15 countries. We just sent one to Malta the other day, with India, pretty much everywhere in the UK, Venezuela, Australia, anywhere you could think of, Germany, a lot of places in Europe. So that's been very, very cool to see, because they don't even really know what American Girl dolls are. And we kind of switched the care packages to wellness packages. So what the wellness packages are, if we see a family that we've already served through a doll or a photo shoot or something, needs like a little pick me up, or we just if there's a relapse or something, we'll send them a package, and it can have anything from toys to gift cards, toiletries, blankets, anything you can think of that we think that family might benefit from. And then we also now do bereavement paintings. So when a family we've served, their child passes away, we send them an 8x10 painting of their child. Those are done by Spencer Welch Studios. So she actually found my Instagram after Ella passed, and she painted Ella and sent it to me. We didn't even know each other, and she didn't know Ella. And I gave the painting to her parents, and they absolutely loved it. So she does all those paintings for us. They're absolutely gorgeous. And now we started incorporating the photo shoots into our mission. So we did a Disney princess inspired photo shoot this past May for 12 girls. They were all dressed up as a different princess. They had hair and makeup done. There was a catered lunch. It took place at a Newport mansion. There was a real Cinderella carriage there. And then each of the girls received a $500 gift basket themed around their princess. They all received a bald doll that was dressed up as the same princess as them. And our goal with that is to take it to every state and partner with a nonprofit in every single state and do that. So next week, we're going to Arizona and partnering with Amanda Hope Rainbow Angels to do that photo shoot at Wrigley Mansion there. And yeah, we're hoping to do 2 to 3 of those a year. And then I guess the ultimate goal with Glimmer of Hope is just to continue to make Ella's wish come true and send dolls to as many kids as possible. We're currently in a battle with American Girl to get a bald boy doll made. So we'll see if that happens. And just make sure that every child feels like they are represented, seen, and beautiful, because you never think, and I have my friends say this to me all the time when they hear about Glimmer of Hope, like you never think, oh, there's not a doll that looks like me. There's not a toy that looks like me, until you have you're something like losing your hair or you're an amputee. And now we're just on the verge of starting to do amputee dolls as well. So that's something that we're working on, because Kerrigan, one of our board members, is an amputee, and this was her brilliant idea. I actually bought her doll a fake prosthetic leg, and I was like, you need to do surgery on your doll to figure out how to put this on, because I can't do it. But so we're just going through the motions and kind of seeing what we can do to best serve this community. And I am big on collaboration. I love to collaborate with other nonprofits, organizations, and see different perspectives, because although I had a best friend that went through cancer, I never personally battled cancer. So the more perspectives, the better, to help me and my board understand kind of what these families go through.
Wow, Ali, and I think that's amazing, honestly, everything that you're doing. And for someone that, like for you personally, that didn't go through it, but you saw, like you said, your best friend go through it, and for you to answer the call to be able to do this, I think that's amazing. And just touching back on a little bit of what you were talking about of Glimmer of Hope, I've seen all the dolls, and I think just recently you posted that if somebody wanted a doll for them to get a and then you started getting all these, like you had to
Yeah.
stop it, right? You had to say to a certain point, like no more.
Yeah, so we got over 60 doll applications in 48 hours, and I don't say no to anyone. So, but we do hand package all the dolls, my volunteers and I. So, and because I'm going away, I was like, I need to shut this down until I come back, because to put it in perspective, last year we sent out about 170 dolls in the entire year, and it's
Wow.
literally the first 3 weeks of January, and we had over 60 doll applications. So we're trying to fill all those really quick so we can put the application back out there. But that was a really tremendous response.
That's cool. And talk to me a little bit about the Ellen Show. How is it that they got a hold of you, or how I saw your the episode, and I thought that was pretty cool. How is it that came about?
Thank you. So that has always been my dream. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's like everyone's dream to be on the Ellen show. And Ella absolutely loved Ellen, which I didn't even know until I called her mom and I was like, we're going to be on the Ellen show. And she was like, oh my gosh, Ella used to come home every single day and watch Ellen. She loved her. So we actually got a direct message from a producer of Ellen, and I thought it was fake. Like, I looked up the producer because I was like, no way. And they were like, she was like, hi, like I'm a producer from the Ellen show, and I saw what you're doing under a hashtag. She found us, and we're doing this new series, and we wanted to interview you to see if you would be a good fit for it. I was like, absolutely. So I did an interview on Zoom, but I was like, this is super cool that I got an interview for the Ellen show, but like 100%, I'm not going to get it, because there was like a 50% chance that we would get it. I think they were picking 2 of the 4 people that they interviewed to get it. And I was at the gym on the treadmill, and Ellen came on, and I was like, about 2 weeks later, I was like, this is kind of weird that Ellen just randomly came on at the gym. And I went home, and as soon as I got home, I got an email that we were going to be on the Ellen show
Wow.
and that they were flying out. That I literally was on the phone with the producer. She was like, okay, we're flying out like next week to Rhode Island to film you for this segment. So it's a segment called All Good Things. And it was the coolest thing ever. We started shooting around 8 a.m. I had like hair and makeup artists at my house at 6 a.m. They set up my entire house. Like, it was literally the craziest, most amazing thing ever. Ella's mom was here too. She did an interview. My parents did an interview. 2 of my board members did an interview. We all had lunch together with like the 10 people on the production team. They were all so sweet. I was like down at one point at the beach in my neighborhood in like the mud with my white shoes to film like the background as the ocean, because we're in Rhode Island. And then we went up to Massachusetts to meet Malia, who is a little girl that is battling cancer. She's 13, and that was actually my first time meeting her, but we ended up, and I gave her a doll, and I ended up going to visit her in New York when she was in treatment a few weeks later. But that was incredible. It was an amazing day. And I definitely think the best part of the day was meeting Malia, because she genuinely reminds me so much of Ella. And like both my mom and Ella's mom said that. And she's the cutest, sweetest little girl ever. And it was so special to share that with her.
That's super cool. Yeah. And just like you said, just being able to see these children, I'm going to be driving up to Fort Worth and visiting a couple of these warriors, and taking them their packages as well. And just being ever around these kids, I tell people 1 or 2 things, if you've never been in a cancer floor at a hospital, number 1, consider yourself blessed. But if for some reason you're doing some sort of volunteer work, or doing anything that you find yourself there, you're going to see how these little kids live, and just the smiles that they have throughout everything that they're going. It really teaches you. And I tell people to live each day to its fullest, because that's the way that these kids are living. and any packages. I remember when my daughter was in the hospital, any packages she would get, a box, a bag, a backpack, I mean, it would bring such a smile to her face. So I think what you're doing with these ball dolls is amazing. Now, we do have a lot of viewers that do help. And I know, and I can, for all our viewers that are watching, I can tell you that doing all of this, it costs money. It really does. You know what I mean? We still have to purchase these things. We still have to send them out. And even though we do have nonprofit organizations, but, we still need help from generous donors such as yourself.
Yeah.
So with Glimmer of Hope, how can people get a hold of you? If you can give us maybe some contact information, social media, and how much it costs. Honestly, let's be realistic here. How much does it cost to put one of these packages or a doll together to be able to send out, in case one of our donors wants to reach out to you and help you out?
Yeah. So we have a few different social media pages. Our Instagram is Glimmer of Hope FDN. And then our Facebook is also Glimmer of Hope FDN. If you're just doing like the short version, but it's also Glimmer of Hope Foundation. Our website is glimmerofhopefoundation.org. That's really important because we've had people do like glimmerofhope.org or glimmerofhopefoundation.com, and it's the wrong website. So it's glimmerofhopefoundation.org. And yeah, it is so pricey. American Girl doesn't give us a break, so we pay full price for everything. We actually have spent about $12,000 in the past 2 weeks because of the influx of applications we've gotten. So it is $150 for a package because the doll is $110. And then we include 2 outfits. We include a bracelet, headband. We include resource cards. So there's a card with Ella's story on it. There's a resource card for other nonprofit organizations that they can reach out to. There's stickers. There's a lot of things in the package. And something cool that we have for donors is we actually have a sponsorship program. So if you donate $150, you can sponsor a doll. And what that means is that we'll post a picture of the child who received the doll that you donated, that you sponsored, and we'll tell their story and we'll credit you as the sponsor on the post. So you'll be able to see the child that received your doll. And I think that's like really special and unique for our donors.
That makes it personal. That makes it really personal. It's just, you see these commercials that you see on TV, to help the children that are starving and to do this. And, you get a picture and you actually see who you're helping, but, doing something here in the States with our children. And I know you've touched on this on, I think a little bit on the Ellen Show. And I think everybody who's a part of this childhood cancer always speaks about 4% funding that our children get. It's 4%, 4 pennies on every dollar that these children are getting for childhood cancer, for treatment that we get from the federal government, the funding. That's all we get. So to be able to see the difference. And I can tell you once again firsthand, when my daughter would receive even the smallest doll, it would bring the biggest smile to your face. So now imagine if you're able to donate and to sponsor a child, you're going to see this child smiling because of what you did. $150. What were you saying? You mentioned something about as far as the funding, how much coffee is made in the days of what they give us for a year for childhood cancer.
5 days. Americans spend on Starbucks in 5 days what childhood cancer funding receives in a year. And I remember the first time I went to lobby, and now I go and lobby a few times a year in DC and then virtually as well. The first time that I went was probably the biggest ask that I had ever done and still have ever done to date. So we advocate for all these different acts and lobby for all these different acts. But the first one that I did was actually for a budget appropriation for the NIH and the NCI, which was just crazy because I just had no idea what I was doing. And it was my first time lobbying, and they were like, okay, you're going to go in and ask these staffers if they can increase the budget for the NIH, which will then increase the budget for the NCI, which will then, and then we're going to ask for an increase in the childhood cancer budget in the NCI. And I was like, what does all this mean? But now I can explain it to everyone. But essentially what that means is that we have to go through all these different hoops in order to get childhood cancer, more than these 4 pennies on the dollar. And that's so important, right? Because like you said, like kids are receiving extremely outdated treatments. They're having to go on clinical trials because there's no treatment for their cancer. And even looking at someone like Ella, who supposedly had a 90% survival rate and didn't survive. And that I feel like, you know, if there's more funding, then maybe that wouldn't have happened. So I hope that one day there's a cure and this doesn't have to happen to anyone. But for now, the least that we can do is be equal to funding for adult cancers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just honestly, it's ridiculous. And it's something that's very upsetting because that's when it gets to the point where parents are being told, we already did everything we can
Mhm.
do, because they don't have any more. I'm not saying that these doctors are bad, they're amazing doctors out
Yeah.
there, but unfortunately, they don't have enough funding or research
Yeah.
for it, and that's when their parents are being told, I'm sorry, we can't do anything else. And that is just upsetting. But yeah, I mean, we can definitely do something. We can definitely be a voice. And I did some research, and I think the last time they did anything for like chemo or to do anything for childhood, the chemo there, I think was 1982. So we're talking about our children now getting chemo that was last updated 30 years ago exactly. And
Yep.
that's just got to change. We got to do something about it. Well, Ali, thank you so much for joining us today. For all our viewers, I'm going to be leaving all the information, how you can get a hold of her, how you can get a hold of her staff, and go into her website and really check out what she's doing. It's amazing when you see the pictures of these children getting the dolls, and go in there and check it out and see how you can help out Ali and Glimmer of Hope. Again, it's an amazing nonprofit organization that she has going on there. Ali, before we leave, do you have any last words for our viewers?
I guess just know that it doesn't have to be your child for you to be affected by childhood cancer, and you don't have to be affected to care, and you don't have to be affected to fight. Because, you know, for me, it wasn't my friend until it was my friend, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So I just believe that everyone should fight like it is their friend before it actually is.
Right, we're all in this together somehow. So once again, Ali, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to all our viewers for joining us this week for the first episode on season 4 of the Gold Corner. Again, teaming up. And Ali, you said you like to collab, so whenever you're ready to come down to
Mhm.
Texas, the Gold
I'm
Corner is
ready
here
right
to help
now.
you out. We definitely got to do something for the children here, so we'll be talking in the near future, and we'll definitely set something up for this year. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again. And this is who we are. We are the Gold Corner. I tell people we are a broken family, but we're broken together. And just remember to live each day to its fullest, because tomorrow's not promised. And just hold on a little while longer, because we're almost home. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.